and welcome again to Edu Skills OET Made Easy. Our mission is to make you fall in love with OET. If you are watching this on YouTube, kindly consider subscribing to the channel, give us a thumbs up if you like our work, and please share the link to your contacts so that we reach out to maximum number of OET aspirants, especially those who are financially struggling. Okay, 19. What assumption was proved wrong by the results of this study? What is a hedging word?
Assumption.
Assumption. Some assumption was proved by the study. Option A, lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies. Lower income?
Lower income mothers, lower weight babies.
Okay. So just to remember, you can lower income, lower weight. Just to remember, this is how hedging words, keywords are highlighted, key phrases are highlighted. Just to remember. No money means no weight. Okay, understand that way. No money in mommy's pocket, no weight. Okay. Option B, a baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. High altitude, less weight. And option C, levels of oxygen have a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status.
Greater impact.
Levels of oxygen is more important than, you can in the notebook, you can write oxygen have a greater impact. Oxygen, which nutritional status is lesser and oxygen is greater impact. You can put that mark. Okay. Levels of oxygen have a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status. Means you give maximum oxygen, non-nutrition. You will have baby which is weighing 18 kgs. Okay. Understood the meaning? Levels of oxygen will help the baby to have weight, needed weight, than the nutritional status. Secondary importance to nutrition. That's what that option says. I did not say. Option D. There is a correlation between prenatal oxygen levels and predisposition to heart disease. Correlation between prenatal oxygen levels and heart disease. To understand?
Yes,
prenatal oxygen levels and heart disease.
What Cusians found was high altitude babies showed a pronounced reduction in birth weight compared with low altitude babies, even in cases of high maternal nutritional status. Babies born in low income mothers at sea level also showed a reduction in birth weight, but the effect of undernutrition was not as pronounced as the effect of high altitude on birth weight. Clearly, fetal oxygenation was a more important determinant of fetal growth within these communities. Remarkably, although one might assume that babies born to mothers of low socioeconomic status at high altitude would show the greatest reduction in birth weight, these babies were actually heavier than babies born to high-income mothers at high altitude. It turns out that the difference lies in ancestry.
Okay. Now, any highlight word that need to be highlighted?
Contrast word, Father.
Which one?
But the fifth
Where
sentence,
is?
there is fifth sentence, Father. But the effect of undernutrition.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But.
Yes.
Okay. But.
There is also
Father,
remarkably.
Remarkably
Okay.
also.
Remarkably also is there. Remarkably means
Although.
when your teacher teaches, this is very, very important. Mark it. Remarkably. They are highlighting and saying remarkably. And again, there is one more contrast word. I said when there are two contrast words, normally answer will be the after the second contrast word. Hope you remember.
Yes,
there were questions.
Father.
When there were questions
Yes,
saying
Father.
that there are two contrast words, what should we do? So normally, if there are two contrast words, generally after definitely it is not before the first contrast word. Okay, and normally it is after the second contrast word. Now one might assume, is there something in the Question stem?
Assumption.
Assumption.
Yeah. Although one might assume, and if a sentence begins with although, if there is a complex sentence, the answer will be in the independent clause. Answer will be in the
Independent clause.
independent clause. Although one might assume that babies born to mothers of low socioeconomic status at high altitude would show the greatest reduction in the birth weight, comma. That is the first part is the dependent clause.
Dependent clause.
Okay. Then there will not be answer in the dependent clause. So you can just ignore and go to the independent clause. These babies were actually heavier than babies born to high-income mothers. Rich mothers. These babies were, although one might assume that babies born to mothers of low socioeconomic status means mothers who have less money, the kids of the poor people will have less weight. That is the assumption. Assumption means presumption, not fact. These babies were actually heavier than the babies born to high-income mothers, those who had enough money. These weighed more than babies born to rich mothers. So poor mothers' babies or rich mothers' baby, which was heavier?
Poor mothers'
Which are more-
babies are
Yeah,
heavier.
poor mothers. So do you have any option? A baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one
Option
born at
A
A.
further.
A.
lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies, but here they are saying what? One might assume, you may think, I will read it this way. Shanmuga may think that babies born to mothers of low socioeconomic status at high altitude would show the greatest reduction in birth weight. They will have lower weight. You may assume. I striked it out. That is in the dependent clause. Answer will never be in the dependent clause. What you are saying now is given in the dependent clause. That is also assumption. Here they are saying assumption proved wrong.
Opposite.
Did you get me? Now imagine, although Sheetal is saying Miami is a very lazy girl, Miami scored A grade in all the 4 subtests of OET. Which is important?
Miami scored A grade.
A grade in 4, yeah. That comes after the comma in the independent clause. Do you get me?
Yes, Father.
Yeah. So here, this cannot be. Lower income mothers generally give birth to lower weight babies. Here they are saying, though you think lower mothers of low socioeconomic status at high altitude would show the greatest reduction in birth weight. No. They are saying you may think, but in fact, these babies were actually heavier than babies of rich mothers. So, do the poor mothers generally give birth to poor, lower weight babies?
No,
No, Father.
No.
Huh?
No.
Yes. Yes or no? I am confusing you. It doesn't mean that is not the answer.
No, Father.
No, Father.
That
Now,
is
what is
the
the answer then?
assumption, Father. It's not like that, Father.
That's not
Okay.
fact.
Now you see, I said in the normal case, this will not be important. And if you remember, I have explained several times about not true questions. Whatever is wrong will be the right. When they ask what is not true as per this paragraph. Do you remember some of those questions?
Yes, Father.
Here they are asking what assumption was proved wrong. Assumption, what was the assumption? Poor mothers will have less weight babies, lower weight babies. But this study showed poor mothers have higher weight babies. So what was the assumption? Normally people used to think poor mothers will have lower weight babies. That was the assumption. Although one might assume that babies born of mothers of low socioeconomic status at a high altitude would show the greatest reduction in birth weight, these babies were actually heavier than babies born to high-income mothers at a high altitude. The fact found out in this study is that lower income mothers have higher weight babies. So which assumption, presumption, speculation was proved wrong?
Lower income mothers
Low
will
income
give lower
income
weight
babies.
babies.
So they are asking which assumption proved wrong, which is
Wow.
right. They are
Proved
not
wrong.
asking which fact is right. This fact is not right. This is the assumption which is proved wrong.
Wrong.
That is the
Yes,
answer.
Yes, Father.
You have to be very cautious about such negative questions. Which assumption was proved wrong? But the assumption was, people thought, the presumption, speculation was that lower income mothers will have low weight babies. But that was disproved by this particular study. Is that cool?
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Yeah.
Father.
Option B,
Yes,
a baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Now you see, what Gusani found was that the high altitude babies showed a pronounced reduction in birth weight compared with low altitude babies, even in cases of high maternal nutritional status. So here they are saying a baby born at high altitude will typically weigh less than one born at sea level. Means those who born at high altitude will weigh less. Correct, no? High altitude will have pronounced reduction in weight.
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father, that's correct.
But that was not an assumption. I am trying to make you understand the difference. That was not, the paragraph is not
Found.
saying that was an assumption. That was found.
Found.
Means established fact. That was
Fact.
established fact. But the question is not
Found.
asking about established fact. They are asking what assumption,
Wrong.
uha, was proved wrong.
Wrong.
So you should be very careful when there is a negative question. Okay. And see, levels of oxygen have a greater impact on birth weight than nutritional status does. They are not speaking, comparing levels of oxygen and nutrition. Do they compare here anything?
No, Father.
No, they never mention. Nowhere it is given. There is a correlation between prenatal oxygen levels and predisposition to heart disease. Do they speak anything about heart disease here?
No, Father.
Anywhere heart disease is mentioned?
No.
No. So maybe right as per the medical knowledge, but they are asking what is given in this particular paragraph. Actually, A is
Wrong.
given. Actually, normal cases, that will not be, the answer in the dependent clause will not be right. But here they are asking the opposite. What assumption was proved wrong? What is given in the dependent clause will be wrong, not the fact. But what is given in the independent clause will be the fact. Although she was willing to marry that particular guy, she refused to marry, she refused to marry because he was a drug addict. He was a drug addict. What is important? What is given in the, yeah, that is the independent clause. Okay, that is cool. Type cool if you're okay.